I'm Sly James. I am a lifelong Kansas City resident. I was the former mayor of Kansas City from 2011 to 2019, and I still live here. It was probably the highest professional honor I've had. It taught me how complex and interrelated this city is, how many needs there are, how many benefits there are, how many blessings there are, how many opportunities there are. I wanted to outlive the attitude that Kansas City's a nice place to live, just don't tell anybody. We needed to tell people who we were because it's important for any city to grow. We set a lot of road marks for other cities in our term. Google put us on a map that we had not been on before. We became a hub for digital innovation. And it also gave us more access to people who could help us with education, infrastructure, and all sorts of different things. Kansas City has always had the ability to be more than it was, and it was an honor to be able to try to get us a little bit closer to our full potential. I lived on the east side. I lived at 44th and Montgall. It was an entirely black neighborhood, and I went to predominantly white schools, so I was able to learn to navigate the racial divides. Kansas City has always had an issue with dividing lines, Troost, Paseo, North and South. As I was moving into the mayor's office, I made it a point to try to erase those lines to the fullest extent possible. But by and large, growing up in Kansas City was pretty much like growing up in any other city. It was the 60s, so there was a lot of turmoil. Vietnam, social revolution, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Politics was at the forefront. Students were protesting, burning draft cards, marching on campuses. Kansas City avoided most of that until Dr. King was assassinated. And then we had riots.
Mob action and civil disobedience, a state of emergency exists within the city of Kansas City, Missouri.
And I remember working at the Kitty Clover potato chip factory and coming back after curfew, which was allowed if you were working, and hitting the corner of my block. The entire area lit up because we were spotlighted by National Guards, forced out of the car, forced to lay on the ground while they determined who we were. Pretty scary, but could have been worse. There were a lot of burned out buildings 1 block away from our home. So we lived through those riots, but I enjoyed my time growing up here. I remember my father taking me to Negro Leagues baseball games. When you went to the stadium in those days, you were dressed in your Sunday clothes. You know, everybody was wearing a suit. And if you don't believe it, ask Bob Kendrick, who runs the Negro Leagues Museum, who still dresses like that. But at the end of the day, it brought us into contact with people that we as young African-American boys and girls could look up to and see succeeding. And I think that's always important to make sure that all of our young people, regardless of age, regardless of race, regardless of where they live in the city, have role models that will illuminate the path for them so that they can move forward in their own lives and achieve the success and satisfy their dreams. Black History Month somehow sets it apart by saying that the history of African Americans in this country should be limited to the shortest month of the year. I've never thought that was true. I think it's a way to educate people who are not black about black history, and that's good. But it kind of puts it in a holiday type mood, and it's not a holiday. Black History Month is an attempt to explain to everyone the contributions that African Americans made to this country and still make to this day. Unfortunately, there are a lot of political people who want to squelch that history, hide it, or not talk about it, which makes Black History Month even more important. But Black History Month is a time for us to learn, recognize, understand, and celebrate the contributions of a group of people who, in large part, built significant portions of this country and its economy on their backs, and who still to this day suffer from the effects of slavery, the effects of separating families, the effects of being undereducated, the effects of poverty, the effects of discrimination, the effects of being a minority in a majority white country that still does not fully embrace and appreciate what the African Americans that came here, were brought here, contributed to make this country what it is today. We've made a lot of progress in Kansas City over the years. We still have issues, but we've made a lot of progress. We need to be mindful of that, and we need to be willing to engage in the hard conversations that are necessary to move us to the next level. We still have too many kids, mostly black, brown, and poor of any race, who do not have access to the building blocks that will support success. They do not have access to quality childcare. They do not have access to quality pre-K. They do not read proficiently at 3rd grade, which puts them on the school-to-prison pipeline. We have a lot more work to do. The thing that's good is that there are a lot of people doing that work.